The front door slammed open so violently that the frames on my hallway walls rattled like a warning. Family photos trembled, a few tilting crooked as a woman in her 50s burst inside, her expression twisted into something between fury and authority. She moved fast, like a storm wrapped in a business suit, brandishing a clipboard as if it were a sword. A shiny enamel pin gleamed on her lapel. Willowbrook, HOA President. "This is the third violation this month," she screeched, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Your grass is half an inch too tall. Your trash cans were visible for 37 minutes past pickup time. And that mailbox. Don't even get me started on that eyesore you call a mailbox." I stood there, caught mid-sip, my coffee mug frozen halfway to my lips. My mind needed a full 5 seconds to process the sight of this stranger marching through my kitchen like she owned it. She ran a perfectly manicured finger across my countertop, inspecting for dust, then actually opened my refrigerator and wrinkled her nose like she'd just discovered a crime scene. "Excuse me," I said finally, forcing calm into my tone. "You need to leave. Now." She spun toward me with theatrical flair, her bleached hair whipping over her shoulder like a curtain being drawn back for a performance. "I am Karen Thompson, president of the Willowbrook Homeowners Association," she announced, voice dripping with self-importance. "And I have every right to inspect properties for compliance." As her hand reached toward my phone on the counter, clearly planning to snap photos of my infractions, I stepped forward instinctively. 20 years on the police force had trained me to stay calm when others lost control. That tone, the one that could de-escalate a hostage standoff, came naturally. "Ma'am," I said evenly, "you just committed a felony." 3 weeks earlier, I'd moved into this neighborhood for peace and quiet. After 2 decades of chaos, I'd earned it. My name is Detective James Morrison. I served 20 years in the department, earned commendations, and retired early to enjoy simple things. Barbecues, gardening, quiet weekends. I thought Willowbrook Estates would be the perfect place to start over. But Karen Thompson had other ideas. From the day I unpacked the moving truck, she zeroed in on me like a heat-seeking missile. The first warning note arrived before I even met half the neighbors. Mailbox height, non-compliant. The next week, oil stain detected in driveway, subsection 12.4 violation. The week after that, flag color appears faded. Replace immediately. At first I tried politeness. I smiled, nodded, thanked her for the information, even though every word out of her mouth made me question my sanity. The neighbors had warned me, though. I remember Bob from across the street shaking his head with that weary half-smile. "That's just Karen," he said. "She's been HOA president for 5 years. Thinks she's running a military base I'd dealt with worse than a nosy neighbor. Or so I thought. The first real showdown came during my barbecue. It was a Saturday. One of those perfect summer evenings when the air smells like grilled burgers and fresh-cut grass. I invited a few neighbors, played some classic rock, nothing loud. We wrapped it up before 8, well within noise limits. But right on cue, at 6:30 sharp, she appeared. Clipboard in one hand, tape measure in the other. She marched up like an inspector from the IRS. 4.7 feet, she announced triumphantly after measuring the distance between my grill and the property line. Regulations require 5. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. After that, she escalated. Anonymous letters appeared on my porch in aggressive, all caps. "Your hedges are uneven. Your doormat is not HOA approved. Your car was parked facing the wrong way for 14 minutes. I started catching camera flashes over my fence at night, Karen snapping evidence of supposed violations. Once I even caught her balanced on a stepladder, peering into my garage window like a raccoon in pearls. When I confronted her, she didn't flinch. "I'm inspecting for architectural inconsistencies," she said proudly, as if she were performing a civic duty. Then came the gossip. By week 4, everyone on the neighborhood Facebook group knew me as the guy with the illegal mailbox. Karen had even photoshopped my yard to make the grass look dead. The digital mob formed instantly, neighbors commenting things like, "disgraceful," or "he's bringing down property values." It would have been funny if it wasn't so personal. That afternoon I was in my backyard fixing a few warped fence boards. The rhythmic sound of hammering, the smell of sawdust. It was peaceful, grounding. I wore noise-canceling headphones and lost myself in the music. What I didn't know was that while I worked, Karen had been watching. She saw me head to the backyard and noticed the front door was unlocked as I carried lumber in and out. For her, that was all the invitation she needed. She slipped in silently, confident in her self-granted authority. She must have thought she was doing the neighborhood a favor. 45 minutes later, when I came inside for a drink, I froze mid-step. Karen Thompson stood at my dining table, bent over like a burglar cataloging stolen goods. My mail, personal letters, bills, even a birthday card for my mother, was spread across the table in neat little stacks. She was photographing everything with her phone. My kitchen drawers were hanging open, my calendar exposed, my private life on display. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" I asked, my voice low and controlled, the same tone I'd used 100 times in interrogation rooms. She turned, puffed out her chest, and clutched her clipboard like it could protect her. "I'm conducting a lawful HOA inspection," she said without a hint of irony. "You've been reported for multiple violations. I have the authority to investigate." "No," I replied, pulling out my phone and hitting record. "You have no authority to enter my home. What you've just done is breaking and entering. It's trespassing, invasion of privacy, and depending on what you photographed, possibly identity theft." Karen laughed, a short, barking sound that filled the kitchen. "Don't be ridiculous. The HOA charter gives me full inspection rights. It's perfectly legal." I smiled faintly, shaking my head. "Show me where it says that." "Go ahead. I'll wait." Her cheeks flushed pink, then red as she shuffled through her paperwork. "It's implied," she stammered. "How else am I supposed to ensure compliance if I can't check inside people's homes?" "Like a normal person," I said flatly. I reached into my wallet and flipped open my badge. Her face went pale. The bold letters glinted in the sunlight. Detective James Morrison, City Police Department. "You're a cop," she whispered, suddenly small. 20 years on the force, I confirmed. "And that camera right there," I pointed to the corner of the living room, "has been recording since you walked in. So has the one in the kitchen. And the front door camera caught you entering without permission." The clipboard slipped from her hand, landing with a thud. Her power, the thing she'd used to bully an entire neighborhood, was gone in an instant. Karen's hand trembled slightly as she bent to pick up her clipboard, her polished composure cracking like thin ice. The confident HOA president who'd marched into my home minutes ago now stood speechless, the color drained from her face. "This is a misunderstanding," she managed, her voice suddenly uncertain. "I knocked." "I thought I heard you say come in from the backyard." I raised an eyebrow. "Through my noise-canceling headphones?" "That's impressive hearing, Karen." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I could see her mind spinning, scrambling for an escape hatch from a situation she couldn't control. "I'm calling this in," I said calmly, pulling out my work phone. "You can explain everything to the responding officers." "Wait!" she blurted, stepping toward me before freezing when I lifted my hand in warning. "Let's just forget this happened, okay? I'll leave right now. No one needs to know. We can work this out." I shook my head. "That's not how crime works. You don't get to commit a felony and take it back when you're caught." Her jaw tightened, the panic in her eyes morphing into desperation. "Please, I have a reputation. I run a real estate agency. If word gets out, I'm finished." I stared at her for a long moment, feeling a strange mix of pity and anger. "You should have thought about that before you broke into someone's home." Her composure shattered completely when I pressed the call button. "Dispatch, this is Detective Morrison, badge number 4729. I said into the phone. "I need units at my residence for a burglary in progress. Suspect is still on scene." Karen's knees buckled. She stumbled into a dining chair, clutching its back like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her breath came in sharp, shallow bursts. "This isn't happening," she whispered. "I'm the HOA president. I'm supposed to uphold the rules, not—" She broke off, tears starting to fill her eyes. I didn't respond. I'd seen this reaction before.
people who thought authority gave them immunity. She wasn't the first. Minutes later, the faint wail of sirens drifted through the neighborhood. Karen froze, her eyes darting toward the sound like a cornered animal. "Please," she begged, voice trembling. "I'll resign from the HOA. I'll approve all your requests, even fix the fence. Just, please don't do this." The sirens grew louder. "You don't seem to understand," I said quietly. "This isn't about a fence or grass height. You invaded someone's privacy. That's not a rule violation, it's a crime." Two uniformed officers stepped through my still-open front door. Officer Martinez, a man I'd worked with for years, nodded when he saw me.
I gave him a brief rundown and showed him the security footage on my phone. His expression darkened as he watched Karen rifling through my mail and drawers. When the video ended, he turned to her, his tone professional but firm. "Ma'am, I need you to stand up and put your hands behind your back." Karen blinked in disbelief. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president. I know the mayor. My husband's a lawyer." "None of that matters right now," Martinez said evenly as he produced a pair of handcuffs. "You're under arrest for criminal trespass and unlawful entry." She gasped when the metal cuffs clicked around her wrists, the sharp sound echoing through the room like a judge's gavel. Her face twisted with humiliation and rage. "This is ridiculous," she cried. "It's his word against mine." "Actually," I said, holding up my phone, "it's your actions against high-definition video evidence." As the officers led her toward the door, Karen turned her head, eyes burning with fury. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I'll sue you for false arrest." "The HOA will make your life miserable." I gave her a calm, almost tired smile. "Looking forward to it." Outside, the commotion had drawn a small crowd. Neighbors peeked out from porches and driveways. Some whispered to each other, others just stared, their faces a mix of disbelief and satisfaction. Mrs. Chen, from 2 doors down, started a slow clap. Bob across the street lifted his beer in a half salute. For years, Karen Thompson had ruled this place like a tyrant with a tape measure. And now, her power ended where her arrogance had led her, in the back of a police cruiser, her muffled shouts fading as the car rolled away. For the first time since I'd moved into Willowbrook Estates, the street was silent, peaceful. But I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. The next morning, Willowbrook Estates buzzed like a kicked hornet's nest. Word spread faster than wildfire. Karen Thompson had been arrested. Neighbors who once ducked behind curtains to avoid her now stood openly in their driveways, swapping disbelief for relief. For the first time, people smiled when they passed my house. Some even thanked me. But I hadn't done it for them. I'd done it because people like Karen only stop when someone finally draws the line. The district attorney's office worked quickly. My home security footage, the officer's body cam recordings, and statements from multiple neighbors built an airtight case. A few even came forward to share their own stories, years of harassment, intimidation, and arbitrary fines. One neighbor described how Karen once threatened to foreclose on their house because their garden gnome violated aesthetic uniformity. Her husband, a local real estate attorney, tried to spin it all as a misunderstanding. But when confronted with the video evidence, even he couldn't talk his way around it. He begged for a plea deal to spare her from jail time. The prosecutor, though, wasn't sympathetic. "You don't get leniency for abusing power," she told him flatly. 2 months later, the case went to court. I attended the hearing, not out of revenge, but for closure. Karen looked nothing like the woman who had stormed into my kitchen that day. Gone was the perfectly styled hair, the sharp blazer, the smug confidence. She sat at the defense table in a plain gray suit, eyes downcast, hands clasped tightly together. The judge read the charges: criminal trespass, unlawful entry, and attempted identity theft. Each one landed like a hammer strike. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of papers shuffling and Karen's shaky breathing. When the verdict came, it was clear: guilty. The judge sentenced her to 1 year of probation, $5,000 in fines, and 200 hours of community service. A light sentence on paper, but the real punishment was far worse. Within a week, her world unraveled. The HOA board held an emergency meeting that very night. For years, her word had been law. Now, not a single person defended her. The vote to remove her as president was unanimous. As she sat silently in the back, neighbor after neighbor stood up to speak, recounting years of fear, control, and humiliation. Some were even trembling as they thanked the board for finally ending her reign. Her real estate firm dropped her the next day. Clients vanished. Friends stopped answering her calls. And then came the headline splashed across the front page of the Willowbrook Gazette: HOA President arrested for breaking into officer's home. The accompanying photo said everything. The proud, controlling woman reduced to a hollow expression of regret and disbelief. As I read the article over my morning coffee, the same coffee I'd once nearly spilled when she stormed into my house, I felt a strange sense of peace. Not triumph, just quiet satisfaction. Karen Thompson had spent years trying to control others. In the end, she couldn't even control her own downfall.